Do you wish you could remember everything? What if every face, name, conversation, and piece of information you have ever encountered was stored somewhere in your brain just waiting to be accessed? While this might sound like a superpower, it turns out that having a perfect memory can be both a blessing and a curse. Here are the top 10 things that would happen if you were born with the perfect memory. Number 10. Remembering every conversation. Can you recall every single conversation you've ever had? It would be exhausting if you had to remember every word said to you by every person you ever met. With a perfect memory, you would never forget where you met someone or something important about them. But the downside is that you couldn't escape those memories even if you wanted to. Imagine being stuck reliving conversations from years ago verbatim in your head. Not only that, but remembering every conversation would take up an incredible amount of mental space and processing power. Your brain would be overloaded trying to sort through the countless interactions you've had, leaving you feeling overwhelmed and anxious. 9. Remembering every face. How many faces can you recognize? Do you remember the first time you saw each person you know? With a perfect memory, you would never forget a face. But there is a darker side to this ability. In the same way that you wouldn't forget a friend's birthday, you wouldn't forget the face of someone who had wronged you. Imagine the stress of knowing you'd never be able to escape the memory of someone who had caused you pain or trauma. Even if you tried to move on and forget about it, the memory would still be there, fresh in your mind as if it had happened yesterday. Number 8. Remembering every smell. Have you ever been struck by a smell that instantly brought back a vivid memory? Our sense of smell is closely tied to our memory, and for good reason. Smells have the power to trigger memories because they stimulate the olfactory center in our brain, which is located right next to the areas responsible for processing emotions and memory. But with a perfect memory, every smell you ever encountered would be burned into your brain forever. And while this might not seem like a big deal at first, it can quickly become overwhelming. Think about how many smells you encounter on a daily basis. Now imagine having to remember every single one of them. It would be like living in a world full of constant sensory input. Number 7. Remembering everything you have ever learned. What would you do with all the information stored in your brain if you had a perfect memory? Having access to all the knowledge you have ever acquired can be extremely useful. However, it also comes with some serious drawbacks. For starters, you would be constantly bombarded with information, trying to make sense of it all. You would need an incredible amount of mental energy to keep everything organized and make sure it doesn't all just become a jumbled mess. Plus, with great knowledge comes great responsibility. How would you handle the weight of knowing so much more than everyone else? Would you feel the pressure to use your knowledge to help others, or would you be afraid of being judged for misusing it? 6. Remembering every dream. How many dreams do you remember having? Most of us only remember a small fraction of our dreams, but with a perfect memory, you would never forget a dream you had. You would wake up every morning with perfect recall of the previous night's adventures in your mind. While this might sound like a fun way to relive exciting adventures, it can actually be quite draining. Dreams are a way for our brains to process emotions and experiences from the day before. They can be intense and highly emotional, and you would have to process all of those emotions again if you remembered every dream vividly. Additionally, the strange and sometimes bizarre nature of dreams can make it difficult to distinguish reality from fantasy. If you started questioning the validity of your memories, it could lead to confusion and disorientation. Number 5. Remembering everything that has ever happened to you. Your whole life would flash before your eyes if you remembered every moment of every day since you were born. This would be both an amazing and terrifying experience. On the one hand, you would have a complete and total understanding of who you are and where you came from. You would be able to see your life as a whole and really appreciate all the experiences that have shaped you into the person you are today. On the other hand, this could be incredibly overwhelming and even traumatizing. You would be forced to relive every painful memory, every mistake you've ever made, and every time you've ever been hurt. Number 4. Never forgetting a face again. How many faces do you recognize? Imagine never forgetting a face again. You'd never have to worry about forgetting a friend's face or being unable to put a name to the person you were talking to. But this ability could come with some serious downsides. For example, you might not want to remember the face of someone who has caused you harm or trauma in the past. Or maybe you wouldn't want to remember every single person you've ever met. The pressure of always knowing exactly what to say and do to make sure you do and offend anyone could be incredibly stressful. 3. Never making a mistake. How many mistakes do you make in a day? We all make mistakes, whether big or small. But what if you could remember every single mistake you've ever made? On the surface, this might seem like a good thing. After all, we learn from our mistakes. But the constant reminder of every blunder you've ever committed could be a real downer. You'd never be able to shake the feeling that you're being watched and judged, which could lead to anxiety and paranoia. Number 2. Remembering everything you have ever read. How many books have you read in your life? If you had a perfect memory, you would remember everything you've ever read. This would be an incredible superpower to have, but it would also be incredibly draining. Imagine trying to keep track of all the characters, plot lines, and storylines from every book you've ever read. It would be like having a million tabs open in your brain at once. Number 1. Remembering everything you have ever seen. What would you do with a photographic memory if you had one? You would never forget a face, place, or event, but the downside is that you would never be able to escape your memories. No matter how hard you tried, you would be stuck reliving every moment of every day for the rest of your life. And while this might sound like a fun way to revisit some of your favorite moments, it can quickly become a nightmare. Imagine the stress of knowing that you will never be able to forget the bad times. The car accident you were in, the death of a loved one, the first time you were betrayed. These are the types of memories that we should be able to let go of. But with a photographic memory, that's not possible. If you could have any superpower, would it be a photographic memory? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this.